You are now tuning in to B minor
and the X Factor.
I love it how it's always delayed just a little bit, right? How it's always like B minor, and then I'm just like, go, go, go. And then it smooths.
I like to build up the suspense. It's all about the suspense. If there's one thing that I learned about life is that suspense can be very, very valuable.
It is all about building anticipation. So we have with us tonight a good buddy of mine I've known for a while now, Nate Lark. Nate Lark's got an amazing story. National championships and trying out for the National Basketball Association, had some injuries. So we're gonna get to talk to him a little bit about that tonight. Now he runs a really successful club program out of San Diego. They've played in the exclusive both years that we've had it. So much appreciation for that, Coach Lark. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you hopping on with us. This will be fun. We'll talk some hoops. We'll hear a little of your story, share some of our favorite quotes, get a little inspiration to those people watching, and then wrap it up. So I'm excited you're here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a good opportunity just to touch base with you. I know it's been a minute since we linked up back in Vegas, but it's good to be here.
I know I missed the exclusive this summer for sure. That was definitely tough, not being able to get together with all those people.
Agreed. Yeah. It'll be better next time around now. You know, got a lot of guys itching to get out there, so.
It'll be great. I think next year is going to be the big one. I think just all the anticipation. And the nice thing is I've been able to kind of weed out some of the jokers because believe it or not, in AAU basketball, there's some dudes less quality than you, Nate. You've seen them. You've coached against them.
Right. Yeah.
Some of these guys. But, Nate, I remember you guys – I just remember how respectful you were to the officials and how polite you were to all the staff that we had, and just did an excellent job. I know after a tough loss, you still carried yourself with class, and I really respected that about you.
That was tough. That's one of the main things I teach my guys is you never know who's watching on and off the court. So you got to make sure you hold yourself to a certain standard, win or lose. Just be respectful, wherever you go. So. But yeah, it was great being there though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're living it, man. So take us through a little bit of your journey, kind of from high school to small college or junior college to small college to how you were able to get a couple workouts for the NBA.
Right. Well, I mean, it started in high school, played ball my freshman year, ended up playing on the freshman team. I could have went JV, but, the coach thought it was best that I would play freshman. My freshman year, averaged about a double-double in the game. And going into my sophomore year, I ended up establishing myself as one of the top 10, basketball players in the country. And so, skipping forward to my senior year playing in Colorado Springs at Mitchell High, I was able to, pull a couple of D1s, Stanford, getting looks from Pepperdine University, even a look from Gonzaga. And I ran into a few injuries. First injury was an ankle injury. And that kind of took me out of the game. It was like the very first tournament of the season, my senior year. It took me out of the game. And I remember my mom telling me, she was like, sit out. Don't play, and I wanted to compete, but it wasn't really a good idea to play. But the tournament that we were going into was like some of the top teams, competing in it, and our school was, high up there playing. So, I bandaged up my ankle, went out and played anyway, wanted to help my team out. And we ended up doing good in that tournament. But I remember the very last game, it's about like 15 seconds left on the clock. We get a turnover. We force a turnover. My buddy throws it down court. I have a wide open dunk. And because I'm favoring my ankle, I'm a one-footed jumper. I take flight, I fly. I go up off of 2 feet. And when I went off of 2, my knee just buckled, gave out, blew my ACL. And that was the first injury that I had. And, you know, coming off of that, I ended up losing all my D1, you know, scholarships, and ended up going to a Juco small school in McCook, Nebraska. Played there for 2 years. And that was, I want to say that's when I got my first like official taste of real basketball, I want to say. Just the competition and the Region 9, it was just, it's on a whole nother level. And I actually really believe some of the best players in college is in Juco. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, you're dealing with players that were D1, you know, competition, were D1 athletes. They probably had, you know, a bad break, such as an injury, or they probably just didn't have the grades. But we went up against some really, really, you know, athletic players that, you know, either you could play or you couldn't. There wasn't like an in between. It was like either you can, you know, get out here and run with these guys, or you couldn't. But that taught me a lot, and a lot about myself just from recovering and getting back, and you know, not ever dealing with an ACL injury before. Mentally, it was tough because it opened up a lot in my game. You know, I went from, you know, just dunking all the time and blocking players and being crazy athletic to now I gotta, you know, open up how to come off pick and rolls and how to shoot the ball from deep, and just transforming my game all over again. So, you know, went to McCook, Nebraska 2 years. It was a great experience out there. Ended up moving back home. My last 2 years went to Johnson & Wales University with Coach Kober, and he was able to put together a good squad with Ethan Fisher. I believe you remember Ethan.
I know Ethan Fisher, yeah.
Had him coming in at point from UNC. So we had a few good guys that came in with that team, and I mean, we really just turned that program around, man. They went from being like 5-24 to, you know, back-to-back champions. So it was good just to be a part of that program and build it up from there. And so, you know, my goal throughout basketball was, you know, I always wanted to play in the NBA. I always wanted to make it to that next level. And it was just a lot of adversity on the way, you know, from going to, you know, a Juco to another, you know, an NAIA school. You know, I was really blessed to meet, you know, some good people that were able to open doors for me and, you know, introduce me to other people. And I remember after graduating from Johnson & Wales, I went to it was a showcase in Vegas. It was an exposure camp for overseas ball. And, you know, I'm playing and I'm trying to get on. I didn't know anything about an agent, none of that. You know, I'm fresh out of college. I'm just trying to get on overseas. And I remember a guy coming up to me. He watched my game and he was like, "Hey, man," like, he was like, "You could play in the league." I'm like, "What league?" He was like, the NBA. And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, who are you?" Like, and you know, the guy, he actually ended up being a player development coach, and he introduced me to Joe Connolly for the Washington Wizards. And Joe at the time was the player development coach for the Washington Wizards. And he told me, he was like, "Look, man, like you're very gifted, you're athletic, you know, you can run the floor, you can shoot the ball, you know, you just need to be put in front of the right people." And so from that point on, you know, I traveled, got on a plane that Sunday to Washington and from Vegas. And you know, I had a chance to work out with the Wizards, and that was the year when they had just recruited John Wall. And it was a good experience. Was I ready at that point in time? No. You know, I got in the gym with those guys, and it was just a whole nother ballgame, you know, from where we were at. Gotta excuse me, I got my Doberman here and it just came up. But yeah, it was just a whole nother beast, man. Like stepping in the gym with all those guys, Devin Sweetney, Sam Cansell was there, you know, like just scouting and watching at the time. And pretty much the feedback that I got from Joe was, he was like, "Look, man, like you're athletic, you know, you're talented. You just got to work on your ball handles." You know, I was like I mentioned, I was a one-dimensional player for the most part, just very athletic. Fast breaks, I'm dunking, but I really didn't have a jumper, didn't have my handles up to par. So he introduced me to a few people back home in Denver, and he was like, "Make some calls, let them know they got a baller in their backyard, and that they should check you out." And you know, the next thing I know, I'm walking into the Nuggets, you know, practice facility, and you know, I'm training with them. And unfortunately, I ended up catching another bad break where I ended up tearing my other ACL coming down off a rebound, landing on Jordan Hamilton's foot, and rolled my ankle, and then my knee gave out all at the same time. So, it was just unfortunate at that time, but, things happen. And I'm gonna leave everything you go through is for a reason. And so, since then, I never wanted to leave the game. I always wanted to be a part of it and stick around it. And I've just been using everything that I've gone through, to help the players that are, that I come in contact with right now, as far as the Lark's Elite is concerned, and, my younger guys, and even doing professional exposure showcases at the, the higher level. So just using all the contacts that I met along the way to help everybody else.
I respect the hell out of that, man. I want to be the first to tell you, because you went from a D1 athlete to an injury that led you to Juco. And by the way, what you said about Juco could not be more true. People do not give Juco the respect that it deserves. I know so many hoopers out of Juco. I know people who have been through DePaul that ended up going Juco. I know people who, have high major looks that end up going Juco because of, various reasons. Like you said, it could be grades, could be injury, whatever the case may be. Maybe, stuff's not right back home. They need some time to whatever, whatever the case is. There are some hoopers in Juco.
Yes.
Hoopers, like yourself. So you went from Juco to literally having people tell you, like, you belong in the league, to being in the league. You know what I mean? Like, How many people can say they did that, man? That's so admirable. And now that's not even enough. Now you're helping other people try to get to that level as well. Incredible. Kudos to you, man, because, a lot of people would just take what they get and just call it a day. Hey, I'm going to take my blessings. I worked my tail off and got where I need to get. Now I'm going to chill. You're like, nah, I'm not going to chill. I'm going to help other people get to where I am and even beyond and see what I can do to help others, man. That's amazing.
I appreciate that.
That is awesome, and I love the story of perseverance and just overcoming obstacles and the challenges that you faced. And you could have easily let that detour or detract from what you've done, but now you've used that as a learning experience and are sharing those experiences you had with the kids in your program, Lark's Elite. Which has some sweet uniforms, by the way. They got the Maryland look.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But so I know, like, some of the people that watch high school athletes, what advice do you give the players that you're talking to in your program? Maybe a sophomore, good player. What type of advice would you give them?
Pretty much just whatever it is that you do that. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're trying to get on, like, don't play outside of the realms of your game. If you're a shooter, come out, shoot the ball. If you have that shot, take that shot. If you are a spark player, if you come off the bench and you produce highlights, come out and give that, especially going into the NCAA live period where you don't know who's going to be there. But, as a sophomore or freshman, you're trying to, get scholarships or turn some heads. Is just go out there, play your game, and then trust in the hard work you put in. So leading up to that point, I let my guys know off top, if you're in the gym, if you're working out like you should be, you're lifting weights, and you're on top of your game, like, you really don't have nothing to worry about. That is going to show, it's going to speak for itself, so just make sure you take care of business on the front end, and cover yourself that way. But that's really it for the most part, making sure, obviously, they keep their grades up, have a good attitude. We're big on that. But when it comes on the floor and we're playing, it's just do what you do well and do it at a high level. Don't let anybody outwork you from the time that ball goes up to the last minute on the clock. So.
Do what you do and do it really well. I think that's great advice, because some kids get to, like, the showcases that I run with Max Hoops, and maybe they're not a scorer, but they try to be a scorer.
Right.
And if you can score. But as a recruiter, I'm also watching the kids that set screens, that defend, that rebound, that dive on the floor, that take charges. So do what you do and do it really well. So if you're a scorer, though, score. But if you're not, don't feel like you have to score in order for coaches to take note.
You know what I've been telling people too, because people hit my DMs a lot and they say, hey, Pont, how can I, and I'm in high school, I'm in grade school, whatever the case may be, I'm trying to get to the next level. I do this and this and this, and I'm this tall and yada, yada, yada. What should I do? I tell them, work hard and this and that, and I, give them different little tips and drills and whatnot. But one main thing I tell them too, and I told somebody this today, be a vocal leader. Do not be afraid to speak up, talk to your teammates, coach them through things. Be a player coach to the best of your ability. Now, don't go out there saying stupid stuff. All right, don't go out there saying miseducated stuff. Really, commit to understanding what needs to be done and do it, and be a vocal leader. Your coach and coaches across the country will love that. I never met a coach that said don't be a vocal leader.
Exactly. That's so right.
But I'll also add this: to be a vocal leader, you have to lead by example also. So you can't be the one out there saying, work hard, and then cutting out early, or you guys got to touch the line, and then you come up short, right? We all know those guys. You've all played with them, and you just kind of chuckle at yourself. You're like, dude, don't tell me what to do. You show up late and leave early, and then you yell at me.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
so you gotta be doing the right stuff. But then I think Pont's right. Being a vocal leader is huge. Just being a coach on the floor and being vocal. If you don't know what to say where you're at. Hey, I'm help, ball. But being vocal, because everybody can talk.
Yeah.
And that's something that is you got to be really good at stuff that takes no talent.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's so true. I remember I went to it was a combine in Canada, man. And I never forget. We went in there and it was this guy. He was like a short, stocky guy, but he was so vocal off of everything. All he did was just repeat everything that the coaches would say. He'd be like, yo, let me get 3 lines on the baseline. Hey, let's go. Hey, guys, come on, 3 lines on the baseline. Always clapping it up. You know what I'm saying? If we're doing 3-man weave or close out, he's like, yeah, let's go. Kid you not, my man signed with a team. And he wasn't as talented as some of the other athletes, but he got on purely because he was just that second mouthpiece out there, and that energy that he brought, so yeah, that's exactly right, man. You got to be vocal.
Hey, Brent, does that sound familiar?
Sounds like a little bit like a walk-on. Sounds like kind of like the 5'8" dude that's my co-host here, because he's not your stereotypical Division I player.
Yeah, that's how it happens, man.
Another thing you said is for me, Nate, when I see you, you don't have to tell me that you work out. And there's some kids that are like, oh, I've been working so hard, coach. And I'm like, really? You're kind of overweight. You're kind of out of shape.
Yeah.
But if you guys can't see, Nate's built. I mean, his shoulders are like this. His waist is like this. Nate works out. Nate works hard on his physique. But that's one thing. Sometimes kids will be like, oh, I've been working so hard. If you've been working, let your body should show it.
Right.
And let your game speak.
Right. Agreed.
Well, let's see. We're going to share a couple quotes. I know we talked a little bit, Nate. You have your verse there that you want to give us and tell us what that means to you.
Yeah. So just from everything that I've gone through and everything that I've been through, it's something that I always share with the guys. And it's that all things work together, for your good, for the good of them that love the Lord. I was brought up, in the church and everything. And I believe that a lot of the things that we go through as individuals aren't always, for us. It's for us to get through, but at the same time, it's for us to share with somebody else. And so, when you're hit with adversity in life and things happen, you just got to remember that it's always working for your good. You might not see it at that point in time, but it's always beneficial for you. If I hadn't gone through what I went through with my knee injuries, I never would have learned how important it is to land, from jumping. I come in contact with so many explosive athletes, and I can point out, hey man, you got to make sure when you land, your knees go out and not in. It's just paying attention to little details, and just the little stuff. My coach used to say all the time, we used to laugh at the time because we thought it was funny, but he would say, if you focus on the elephants, the rabbits will kill you. And it's so true. We had I remember we had a player that couldn't play in the game because he had a blister on his foot, on his toe. And you get blisters like from the little small things like putting your socks on the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that will take you out a whole game though. You know, if you have a blister on your foot. So it's just, you know, taking the little things serious and not taking them for granted. But, you know, I tell my guys that all the time, you know, in this life, you're gonna have, you know, trials, but it's only for just a short period of time, man. Like things always work out for your good. You just gotta stay positive, you know, keep your head up and remember why you started. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be worth it. If it's not worth, if it's easy for you to give up, honestly, you don't deserve, you know what I'm saying, the goal that you're trying to get to. And that's what I tell my guys, man. If you can walk away from a little bit of adversity, truth be told, you don't deserve that dream that you say you want, because you got to sacrifice for that. And, you know, you gotta be willing to go through something, you know, to get it. So, and in the end, it always works out anyway for your good. So. Yeah.
I think that's great, man. I love that. Romans 8:28.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I also love that. Remember why you started. Mm-hmm. So when it's going to be tough. So it's not going to be easy, but like you said, that you have to be committed after the feelings that you had when you committed are over. You still have to be committed. And I think remembering why you started is so important, and because you're going to have adversity, you're going to have tough times. And that kind of goes into mine. Tough times don't last. Tough people do.
That's right.
Very simple, but tough times don't last. Tough people do. And you got to keep going through those tough times, because those tough times make you who you are. And the more difficult and more challenging those obstacles are, I feel like the more rewarding it is when you do get through it and you see what you have learned from those experiences.
Right.
Yeah, I love that, B-Mine. I definitely do. And, you know, you need to persevere through that. And I feel like all of us over the past couple of months have gone through some tough times, just given the situation, you know, and what's going on in the world right now, no matter what the case may be. And that kind of leads into mine as well. Through these hard times, you got to persevere and work hard. So one that I picked was, the harder you work, the luckier you get. This is something that my dad has always instilled in me. He said, hey, listen, you are going to work your tail off and you're going to accomplish great things. And when you do, when people see you living your best life, you know what they're going to say? Oh, this guy's so lucky. Look how lucky this guy is. Oh, he plays here and he does this and he drives this car. He's so lucky. What is the definition of luck? Like, what do you mean lucky? Like, what were you doing when I was working my butt off? When I was doing this and that, when I was, you know, having sleepless nights, when I was waking up early to do all this and that. Where were you at? You were at the movies. You were bowling. You were doing other stuff. Whatever you were doing. I don't know what you were doing. But you weren't doing the right stuff, obviously. And now I'm lucky. Crazy, crazy, crazy world we live in. A lot of people would rather say, hey, this guy's lucky, than, hey, how does he have that stuff? Let me learn from this guy. Let me see how I can get there too. You know what I mean? So obviously I'm not there yet. I'm 21. I'm working my way up there. But I say that to say that if you work really, 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 really hard, people are going to tell you you're lucky. And that's probably a good thing. If people are telling you you're lucky, you're probably in good shape. You probably worked really hard, or you won the lottery.
You are lucky then.
Also kudos to you then, but then you are lucky. Yes.
Yeah.
But I love that. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And luck favors the prepared. Mm-hmm. I'll say that again. Luck favors the prepared. So if you're prepared, then that's when you find those lucky breaks, or, oh, that person's, and I think that's so true. Everybody says, oh, you're lucky. And it's like, yeah, well, luck favors those that have worked and putting in the hard work. And I love that example. Where were you? Where were you? Where were you when I was working and putting in the time? I didn't see you. There's very little traffic on the extra mile, right? The extra mile, if you're going past and beyond and doing more, those people are gonna be weeded out. So it is so important to keep preparing, because when you get that successful break and that right coach does see you, oh, you're lucky. Well, you were prepared. You were prepared. And we said it, I think it was last episode or the episode before, but success is when preparation meets opportunity. It's all right to be nervous. It's all right to be scared, but it is detrimental to not be prepared. It's all right to be nervous when you show up in that situation, having those little bit of those nerves, little of those butterflies. And I'm sure that's how it was when you were walking into the Wizards or right? Like, but that's you've prepared and knowing that you deserve this and saying those mantras. That's how I stay positive. You know, I've worked for this. I've prepared for this. I was talking to somebody else the other day about how people, when they pick on me, because for a while, I'd hide my good grades. I was embarrassed. And then I got to this where people, when they start to kind of pick on me, I'd have this little mantra. I'd say, it's all right. It's okay. You're going to pump my gas someday.
Oh, you're going to pump his gas?
That's what I would say. So like when they're making fun of me or they're giving me a hard time, and I'm like, dude, that's all right. That's okay. And I wouldn't necessarily say it to them because it wasn't like I needed to start a fight or prove that I was right. But it was just, that's all right. That's okay. You're going to pump my gas someday. And that was just something that a little mantra, because you don't have to pump your gas in Oregon, by the way. Like if you're in my state, you pull up to the gas station, somebody walks up and says, what can I get for you? You don't have to get out of your car. You hand them your credit card. You say, fill it up with regular, and you just sit in your car and wait. And then they come back and give you the receipt. So it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like Greece, actually. I haven't seen that in the U.S. That's pretty cool. You guys still do that in Oregon?
Oregon, you don't have to pump your own gas. When it's cold and rainy in the winter, you just pull up, you crack your window a little bit. And it's not the toughest job, which is why it doesn't pay very well and you smell like gas. It's a hard job. That's why I usually tip $1. Some people don't tip. Most people probably don't tip. But I figure I'm tipping somebody that's like the server at my restaurant, and their job's way easier than the person that's out in the rain and the cold, smelling like gasoline. So I tip them a little bit, but that's just it's a pretty, you don't have to have a college degree to pump gas. So it is one of those jobs that a lot of people that are struggling get, but sometimes people, it's all right. It's okay. You can pick on me, but you're going to pump my gas someday.
Yeah.
Mantras. I think it's good to have those reset triggers too. So I know I say like a goldfish. So Damian, if you're a shooter and you miss a shot, you can't be thinking about that last shot. Good shooters have a short memory, and goldfish have a 7-second memory. I don't know how they test that or how they really figure that out. But they say goldfish have a 7-second memory. That's how they don't get bored swimming around in those little fish tanks. But like a goldfish. So sometimes I'll just yell that. And the other team's like, what's the coach doing? Why is he saying like a goldfish? What's that even mean? The guys on my team, the guys that are playing for me, I'll be like, oh, I get it. Like I just got next play speed, next play mentality, next play. I'm not worried about what happened before, good or bad. You make a shot, next play. You miss a shot, next play. But that's something, having those little trigger phrases. Some of the ladies I coached, we used to say, shake it off. And then I would do a little Taylor Swift dance,
Oh, no.
Not really. Not because Taylor Swift, she had a song. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. Shake It Off.
Mm-hmm.
Nate knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Shake it off. Short memory. Good shooters have a short memory, like a goldfish. Moving on. Next play, next play, next play.
And I'm not ashamed to say that I was listening to Taylor Swift today. True story.
Word?
What was the reason behind that? You're not embarrassed. I'm not saying you should be, but what sparked the Taylor Swift song? And just come on, or is that just on? Is that in your MP3? You have an MP3 player?
Absolutely not. But no, just coming home from church, came on the aux. I was like, all right, I was listening to it. A couple teaspoons of songs actually.
Okay, you're making fun of me, but you still have an aux cord?
Of course. Oh, actually, yeah. Do have an aux cord. I was in my car.
They come in handy every now and then.
You might need one. Sometimes if you're in a rental, I know we've had like, where is the aux cord?
Yeah. MP3 though, that's outdated though. We gotta get rid of that.
I was gonna say a Walkman, Nate.
Nah, not the Walkman.
What about the 3-second Discman anti-skip?
Ooh.
You're a young guy though. You guys are young. You guys are just kids. You don't remember when it was
about
like.
the anti-jog, man, the anti-skip. I know about
Okay, now you're talking. Now you're talking the
got to
anti.
wipe the CD off, like, put it back in there.
Exactly, or the Nintendo.
Man.
Oh man, kids today will never realize. I talk about stuff like dial-up internet, and Ponce over here like, what's a payphone?
My earliest memories of stuff like that is probably playing a GameCube, playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. And I was talking about this today too. I got so mad that I broke the disc, but it was my brother's console. So I literally broke the disc, and then I was like, oh no, he's going to be mad. So I took it and I hid it. I hid the two different pieces because I didn't want to put it in the trash because I knew he'd be able to see it. And I was like, oh no. So I hid it.
You broke it, but then you hid it so that way he'd think he lost it instead of thinking you broke it.
Precisely. I was thinking.
That was a good idea.
Diabolically, but I was thinking.
That was pretty diabolical. But which diabolical is a good word, Pon.
An excellent word, right? Diabolical. Maniacal.
Maniacal. Use that one in a sentence.
Her intuition was maniacal.
Ooh.
Okay.
Meaning that it's probably not good. Very destructive.
Suspect.
Suspect. Very suspect.
Awesome. Well, Will, do you got anything you want to chime in with? Or Damien, do you have any questions for Nate? I can unmute you here, Will, if you want to say something here.
Yeah. So the one thing that I've been reading lately is this book by Sins Invalid. It's through disability justice, and one of the principles like which they talk about is people are leading in these movements who are most impacted, and like I was translating to about how Nate is coaching his teams and because like on the AU circuit because he's been impacted like and has been through the toughs at times with being injured, and he's able to like relate that to his players, and that's what made me sort of just bring this up because it's important that these players understand that someone has been in their shoes before.
That's a great one. What's the name of that book you're reading?
It's called Skin, Tooth, and Bone.
Skin, Tooth, and Bone. Okay. All right, we're going to get Eloy. Here we go. Damien, Eloy, you're good.
Hey, so I have a question. So how does one get like listed on the top 25 ESPN, McDonald's All-American? How does that all work? I mean, because you see today, like we see Mikey Williams on his class for 2023. I mean, he looks dominant, but yeah, he plays for a small, tiny little charter school, and then Damien's over here playing for a big 6A school with 2,500 students. You know what I mean? So how does that all work? How do you get noticed to be on those top big nominations?
Good question. Go ahead, Nate. How would you answer that?
I would just look at, I tell my players this, at the end of the day, from middle school to high school to college, the players that stand out at an earlier stage are the ones that can put the game together the quickest. So if you have a player that can read defense and knows how to avoid certain passes that would result in a turnover, or if you have a player that knows how to take over a game at a certain point in time, or if you have a player that can, let's say, play defense, that can shoot and communicate and is coachable and knows how to make other players around him better. Those tend to be the players that end up making those top 10, the ESPN is all about the athletes that are able to put the game together at an earlier rate than everybody else. So you look at LeBron James when he came on the scene. LeBron was already playing like he was in NBA in high school. You look at Kobe Bryant was already playing as if he was in college when he was in high school. So, I tell my guys, I tell the parents, I tell the players that come through my program, like if you want to be that type of guy, you got to start putting together and stitching together your game all around. If you want to stand out, you got to be able to do standout things on the court. So, you know, although Mikey Williams is he was at San Ysidro, but at the end of the day, you know, they're like, he's not playing against any competition or any talent. I don't know players that would score 72 points in a game that were playing at a normal school that didn't have any talent at all. You know, he's still a sophomore or a freshman at the time. There's still players that were on. I coached at Cathedral, and we went to the championship, won our championship out here. We didn't have players doing the things that he was doing, and they were older than him. So at the end of the day, you know, it comes down to being able to the player that can put the game together all around those tend to be the ones that stand out. And you can see it as coaches, you can see it. You can see a kid that can shoot the ball, even if he missed, you can tell by his follow through, like, yo, that kid can shoot. Like how he's just releasing that ball. If you see a kid that handles the rock and how he moves through a pick and roll and how he's able to split and draw the defense and kick at the right time, okay, look, that's something that kids his age probably shouldn't have, but he has it. So that's how you end up getting that exposure and getting noticed and turning heads. You just got to be able to develop and put in the work and do it quicker than everybody else. You end up standing out. That's really it. So
and I would also say to be less worried about the rankings than development, because there's kids that were ranked in the top 10 as a freshman or sophomore that never play in college.
Right.
Where I was never ranked. I never got a phone call the first day, but I was able to play Division I college basketball because I just stayed humble, stayed hungry. And so I know it's difficult when you're like, this kid's getting an offer or this kid's ranked this in the state when you're better. A lot of that's politics. A lot of it's, right, I would say like, oh, who knows who, and they're trying to look out for somebody. So I'm just very leery of the rankings. Even as a recruiter, I'm less worried about the rankings than I am getting to know the kid, finding out about what type of family they have, what type of support they have, how important their academics are. We call them OKGs, our kind of guys. And our kind of guys aren't the ones that are caught up in chasing the ranking, but chasing the development and the process. Because like I said, there's kids that are ranked in ESPN top 100 that don't pan out because they don't take care of their grades or they get in trouble off the floor. So I think it is difficult sometimes because, you know, you might not be 6'8", you might not have the YouTube following or the Instagram following of some of these players. But I would say, Damian, just keep your nose down, keep working, worry about what you can control. Which some of that you can control by getting in front of the right people. By being in here, you're meeting coaches, you're meeting people. So keep getting yourself in those situations, going to those camps. Ryan Silver is pretty dominant on the West Coast. So getting to West Coast elite events, doing things that are uncommon. So taking charges, like Nate was saying, putting the game together, trying to make it slow down, facilitating, and then just, I think coaches do like winners. So if you're playing on the winning or on the main court, you're going to have probably a better chance of being noticed and being ranked than, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe some of these other guys.
You're right, absolutely right. If you can win, like you're doing everything that needs to be done anyway. You know, you're there, so that's
yeah. I think worrying about what you can control, which is putting yourself in those positions by going to events, but then not stressing it or worried, because there's going to be kids that you're better than that are ranked higher than you because of things beyond your control. So that's where you can worry about, you know, senior year, there's kids that are unranked getting scholarship offers where there's kids that are ranked that are not. So I think that's something that I would stress is be less concerned with the rankings and more concerned with the development. Because if you're putting in the time and other kids are like, hey, look at me, I'm ranked 48th in the state for combo guards under 6 foot. And, you know, like there's some of these rankings where these kids are just, and then you have to pay to subscribe to the service that ranks you. Right. So then obviously the kids that are paying to subscribe are going to be ranked higher So there is just so much politics that gets involved in the high school rankings that I would say just worried about what you can control, being proactive. So getting your name out there is important, reaching out to coaches at all levels, not just Division One, because Division One point guards now, lots of them are 6'5", 6'6", you know, so not being big time in people, because you never know when a D3 assistant is going to take a job at a D1.
Exactly.
Right? Coaches move. There's always people moving around. You never know who's going to know somebody else. You know, so if I see a kid that's like, then I'm like, this kid's really good. He's better than Division III where I coach. I know a lot of Division I coaches that I'll call and say, hey, would you evaluate this kid? You know, I'm never going to tell another coach that they should offer a kid or even recruit them. But hey, here's a kid that I think is probably a better level than us. I don't think he's going to pay to go to college. I'd love to get him in a place where he can be around good people and good coaches that I know and trust. Take a look at him. So I think what you guys are doing is the right thing, getting around good people who are going to look out for your best interest, but then don't big time small college coaches and worry about getting better. We say DMGB, doesn't matter, get better. You're ranked number 1 in the state of New Mexico, doesn't matter, get better. You're not ranked, doesn't matter, get better. You know, so I think that's something that we say a lot, like, you win a game, doesn't matter, get better. You lose a game, doesn't matter, get better. Worry about what you can control, keep grinding, keep working. Coaches will take notice, and just do what you can do. And like we started this about, is be a star in your role. I know you're a scorer. I know you do a lot of those things, but be a star in your role. Do it to the best of your ability, and people will start taking notice. You're young. You're only a sophomore, so you have time to still get noticed. So I would say don't worry about the rankings as much as worrying about getting in the gym and making efficient use of your time in the gym. That's what I would say about that, Eli.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Pont, what do you got? You got anything for us? A little closing remarks, closing shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely just say there were a lot of great pieces of information here tonight. I think that Nate definitely shared some inspirational, first of all, his story of what he went through, and then now, you know, also what he is inspiring others to do. And I say that to say that anybody out there who is willing to put in the work, like, and don't worry, like, you know, people hit me up like, hey, man, like, I can't, like, I'm not the best shooter. Hey, I'm not the best at this. Hey, I'm not the best at that. Like Brant said, like, doesn't matter, get better. And I love that. I'm going to steal that. I heard it before, but it sounded better, honestly, coming out of your mouth, Brant. I liked it. So doesn't matter, get better. You know, whatever you got going on, I don't care. I don't care if you're LeBron James. Well, when you're LeBron, you know, you're probably in good shape, but it still doesn't matter, get better, though. I mean, hey, still stand strong, right? So at the end of the day, you know, keep on working, be you, and be minor. What should we tell them? If you're going to walk,
walk on. Let's go. Cut, print, wrap it up. Let's go.